Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Doug Wendt. I'm the president of Wendt Partners, and we're really thrilled to have you join us for this hour. We are going to keep it strictly to an hour, so we appreciate your taking time out of your day to join us, and we're going to respect your time and give you what I think is going to be a really exciting discussion and presentation today. So I'm going to be introducing our two fine panelists here, or guests, in just a second. But let me first sort of just summarize a couple of housekeeping items. Number one, we're going to be sharing a recording of this program to everybody. So you'll be able to share it with your friends and review it yourself as well. In addition, we do these programs on a regular basis. We try to do them every month. So I encourage you to subscribe for updates with us and keep an eye out for our next program. So with that in mind, today's focus is from CPQ to AI, the future of B2B selling in the HubSpot platform. And with that in mind, I've got two people who are way smarter than me in each of those areas to help us dig in to the fundamental challenge we're trying to overcome, which I'll talk about in a moment. Let me first introduce our two panelists. We have Dax Miller, the founder, president, CEO, chief technical officer, and superstar behind the team at Happily. Hey, Dax, good to see you, my friend.
Man, always a pleasure. Thank you for having me at my house. In your house.
You got it. House, and we'll probably have to do a tour a little bit later. We're gonna really have some fun here. Awesome, Dax. And we have Sean Steigerwald. Sean is the president, founder, CEO, chief client officer, and all around awesome guy at CustomerIQ. Hello, Sean.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I desperately need to up my background game. We can get a tour of my vanilla room here.
I got blank office. You got blank, home, and then we got Dax with the Museum of 80s Amazingness, 80s and 90s amazing. That's awesome. So I want to take a moment and just ask each of you to do a little bit more background on yourselves before we begin, so that we kind of position things, because we're going to be talking about three technologies: HubSpot itself. We're going to be talking about QuoteHappily, which is part of a larger library of Happily apps. And we're going to be talking about CustomerIQ. I'm going to set the stage for the problem we're trying to solve. But first, Dax, tell us a little bit about Happily and a little bit about your story of solving for customer needs in the HubSpot ecosystem and your philosophy that's guided you through that.
No, I appreciate it. So again, just like most people in the HubSpot ecosystem, it was a stumble into affair, right? Where you're just like, oh, somebody needed something and they're using a CRM in HubSpot. For me, it was the introduction of having someone needed a migration, one of a friend of a friend. I'm like, what is a migration? I'll figure it out. What's HubSpot? I'll figure it out. Turns out everything that they needed, HubSpot didn't have, which was a service portal, and they needed some SLAs. So me and a friend built out most of those early apps, which turned into one of the first app studios in HubSpot called Alchemist. Moved forward, years later, now we're here as Happily, rebranded, a HubSpot Ventures portfolio company with a couple flagship apps and a lot of different utilities. But we love to talk about QuoteHappily. We love to talk about Event Happily and how we're solving these feature gaps as HubSpot, the rocket ship, moves up market, more to enterprise, more to bigger needs. And that's what we're here to solve, those feature gaps.
Awesome. Thank you, Dax. I'm going to call them feature extensions, enhancements, and explorations. How's that sound?
Let's keep it positive. It's not a gap. It's just, hey, your business is just like HubSpot is a platform. Your business is going to be as unique as your fingerprint, as unique as your snowflake. And HubSpot is solving the major problem of having a platform for which people can grow their systems. And we are just extensions of those systems that are tailored to more specific use cases around CPQ, around events.
Awesome. I love that, Dax. We're going to come back to that platform concept because I'm a huge believer in thinking about it that way as well. Sean, tell us a little bit about CustomerIQ, a little bit about your journey, how you ended up starting a company in the rapidly evolving, to say the very least, AI space, and how you came to focus a good part of your effort on HubSpot.
Yeah, absolutely. So similar story to Dax. This is all just to solve a problem I had. This is my second startup. I've used HubSpot in every company I've been in. Love HubSpot. One thing I don't love doing is entering data into the CRM. That's true of any tool. I don't think it's a HubSpot problem. It's just no one likes to get off a really exciting, fun sales call and then go do some data entry. at around the same time I was looking for the next thing is when actually GPT-3 had come out. So these new LLMs had just kind of taken the world by storm. This is pre-chat GPT, so I was just a nerd like tinkering with this on the weekends. And we realized that was one of the things it was really good at, is taking a bunch of unstructured text and structuring it into things like CRM fields. So that was the first problem that we tackled. And now we do two main things. We automate CRM data entry and we automate email. So the other thing I hate doing is organizing my inbox. It's really important to get replies out quickly. These models are exceptional at helping with that, with a whole bunch of kind of magic sauce in the background. So yes, I think we'll talk a little bit about that today, but that's what we do at CustomerIQ.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me frame up the business challenge that we're trying to solve together, right? And just for those of you who are joining us, my role here, my company is a solutions provider. So we don't build software, we build the solution by assembling the right software components. You could think of us as the assembly team and the training team. So we're in the implementation business and we focus exclusively on the HubSpot platform. And one of the challenges that we've had historically is that, to Dax's point, it requires more than just HubSpot core or native functionality in many cases to solve a lot of business problems. That's not a bad thing. That's the nature of any ecosystem. There are over 1,700 applications that at least have some form of a connector in the HubSpot ecosystem directory, right? So you think to yourself, well, okay, all I need to do is press a couple buttons and I can basically extend the platform indefinitely. But how you build that tool is as critical as whether or not the tool connects to HubSpot. And I'm going to really dig into that because the two companies that have joined us here, represented by Dax and Sean, have taken very specific approaches to how to build that tool and how to connect it to HubSpot that I think is revolutionary and changes the game, okay? So the problem we're trying to solve is I'm a technical or industrial salesperson, sales professional. And Sean knows that I use myself as a pretty serious in-depth use case because I literally go from sales call to sales call to sales call. I have to build statements of work. I have to send follow-up emails. I have to write proposals. Like, I'm living the dream. I'm living all these challenges myself. And on the grand scheme of things, we're a relatively mild use case in the sense that a lot of the clients we serve, since at Wendt Partners, we specialize in industrial manufacturing, distribution, technical solutions companies. We may have an engineer who is also in charge of selling the product, who has to design and work with an architectural firm and a general contractor to create the right solution and determine what products are involved. I mean, the level of precision here is extreme, right? I can't make a mistake. I can't afford to make a mistake, but I also have to keep selling stuff. And so there's this constant tugging between moving the sales process along as quickly as I can, and at the same time, getting the job done accurately and with precision and with not only no mistakes, but no things that could later be perceived as a mistake. Okay. And so, as I like to say on a regular basis, and sometimes I say this to clients, the way that this works is if you make a mistake, you'll later ask me why I didn't clarify something well enough to confirm so that you wouldn't make the mistake. Either way, it's going to be on me. Whether I made a mistake or you made a mistake, it's going to be on me. I'm the catch-all, and I have to try to do my best to play that role. So our clients, Sean, to your point, enablement and adoption, there's a huge amount of focus right now in the overall CRM industry on adoption. Right? We have a dedicated department. It's one thing that makes us totally unique in the HubSpot ecosystem. We have a whole enablement department that just focuses on that, separate from everybody else. But it's a mountain to climb. Training is critical, but only insofar as people are going to actually go camera on, do the homework, listen. They're adult learners. They're students in a school. So there are two things that we have to try to do to make that burden not go crazy high. One is not to add more data entry burden, and the other is not add more tool confusion, okay? So, when we think about the sales process, we think about a couple of critical pinch points in the B2B technical and industrial world. The first pinch point that really strikes me is keeping what I call keeping process flow. So in order to do that, those follow-up emails, those communications have to be extremely precise. And Sean, to your point, I'm actually going to go ahead and put you on the spot. We're going to take a look, if you're okay, take a look at some CustomerIQ stuff. Let's dig into how we solve that problem. Now, I want to mention one thing before we switch into CustomerIQ. And that is, a week and a half ago, I was down in New York at HubSpot's Spotlight event. And there are two key themes that came out of that Spotlight event. Spotlight is HubSpot's annual product release-a-thon, I guess is probably the best way to put it. The company typically does a large spring release, that is Spotlight, and then of course another release at Inbound every year in the fall. So we were at this release-a-thon, and the two things that came up were, we want people to do more work with fewer clicks and fewer changes of context. Okay, so HubSpot solutions to that is the workspaces, where they're bringing functionality together from different modules and different screens in one spot. Okay, the second theme, of course, was AI, both generative and now agentic AI. Okay, trying to help me have the system do more work on my behalf. But at the end of the day, there's only so far that's going to take me. HubSpot's AI, of course, is built for every customer, i.e. it's generic. That's not a bad thing, but it takes us to level one. Sean, what is your take on where AI can drive things for the B2B technical and industrial, this highly complex market? And what are some of the things that you guys have done with CustomerIQ that you and I both know are supercharging that role for the salesperson who's using HubSpot?
Yeah, for sure. So we did some research on this. Would love to say before we started, but it was a little bit after we got going, to see how much time sellers, and especially complex sellers like enterprise sales teams, spend on just CRM, data entry, and email. And between those two activities, it takes up almost 2 days per week. So basically, our whole mission is just automate as much of the administrative part of that we can, so that they can focus on driving the deals, not missing the details, but also ultimately just increase the capacity. So do less of the things you don't like doing, like CRM data entry and writing follow-ups and meeting notes and all of that. And then you can just take on more deals. So we can do a ton of that now. It gets better literally every month, as anybody working with some of these frontier models knows, that advancing at a rapid pace. So it's really exciting to see. But yeah, I mean, it's highly detailed, just as you expressed. Our focus is get all of that administrative burden off of the plate and get people on deals more.
So I'm going to cue you up to show a little bit based on my own experience and what we're doing with the platform, because you mentioned a couple of different things.
Sure.
So one of the challenges is updating CRM fields. Okay. Another is sending that post-sales call follow-up email, which in my world and in our clients' world has to be very precise, very specific. It's basically like a project management email.
Timely is important too. Like,
what'd you say?
I said timely is important. If
Oh
anybody
my
is
God.
like myself, that follow-up email is like, yeah, I'm going to get to it because I'm back to back now.
Yes.
And then you start to send that email and you're like, I kind of forgot what I was supposed to do. I have this notepad of like action items from all the calls, and I have to watch the call again. So I have to basically do the call twice. And
Right.
having just something that could at least give me the starting point, right? The clay on the table that I can mold, rather than me having to go dig dirt, put some water in it, and make the clay myself. It's a big deal. And that's like a pain point that everyone doesn't want to say they have, but they got it.
Oh my gosh. Dax, you nailed it. You nailed it. And we've been running tests. I want to thank Sean, his team. We've been in a partnership to really push the envelope on the platform. I told you at the beginning of this work, Sean, like if I felt that it wasn't strong enough, because I've done a lot of testing, we're building an AI consulting team at Wendt Partners. We've tested a lot of products. Not everything is ready. And we've been running CustomerIQ now for a couple of months, and consistently those follow-up emails are being generated by CustomerIQ. It's funny. People on my team say, wow, it sounds just like you, Doug. I don't know whether that's a compliment or not, but I'm going to go with it. The joke at Wendt Partners is ChatGPT sounds like Doug. Doug sounds like ChatGPT. But the precision of the communications is the key. And then there's another piece, which is adding the right resources. So Sean, if you want to pop open your screen, you should
Yeah.
have sharing privileges. Let's take a look at some of these different elements. And Dax, you nailed it. And we're going to be talking about how this fits then on the HubSpot front side, looking at QuoteHappily in a few minutes as well.
Sure. Yeah, happy to show. Yeah, and for everybody listening, Doug is the power user. Doug is actually in some of our presentations as Beat Doug. He has back-to-back calls. So as I'm sure you all work with him, you know it is great. But yeah, the whole idea is automate the admin, but also fit it into the workflow. And I think that's something unique that we do.
Yes.
That I'll share. So I'll share my whole window because we're actually going to look. Let me see this. Yeah, right. And I'll try it to infinity.
There
here.
you go.
So you can see it?
We gotcha.
So we'll look at a call.
Because I'm old, I'm putting my glasses up on the top of my head now, so I'm ready.
Cool. So we'll look at a real call and kind of show you both sides of this: the CRM data entry, and then the meeting follow-up email. The really unique things we do is, Doug mentioned this in the beginning of the call. Really, for most users, when you have CustomerIQ set up, there's a lot of great resources we have in the application, but it does the core things in the background with no need to go in there, which I think the software of yesterday, that would maybe be a faux pas. Like, you want people in the system and not these active users. We kind of look at the future with AI as just, it should just do the work for you, and you just reap all of the benefits and you don't have to go learn all these systems. So one unique thing is, you get off a call, you have the recording, it's awesome. So to Dax's point, you often still, it's helpful to go back and review recordings and go through the transcript and summary notes. But just right out the gate, I'll show you, we update any property in HubSpot. So contact, account, and deal properties. In this case, this is just a friendly conversation. We didn't have a deal going with them or anything, just catching up. But you can see that CustomerIQ updated a few fields for me: data volume, the emails are sending, the CRM they're using, and the use case. Couple of things to point out here. These are drop downs. So you'll see a lot of tools help with some data entry, but to Doug's point, like, we're focused on the details, and a big part of what marketing teams use the CRM for is segmentation and building drip campaigns, and all of that really still relies on drop downs and multi-select fields and single select fields, and these things that really make the CRM popular. So CustomerIQ can learn all of that, update anything that you connect to it. And then,
Sean, I'm going to interrupt you to make a really key point here, which is, we, like everybody else, started creating all those fields for us to manually update them, and nobody ever did, including me. And so then we deep sixed them, and now we're going to go back based on your best practices and what we know your engine can provide, and recreate those, but purely in the background for the purposes of them being filled in automatically. I don't want my sales team manually answering those questions, period. I only want CustomerIQ to fill in that information and provide that intelligence to our team, which is something you couldn't even do in HubSpot a couple of years ago. Creating a whole section on the screen that is designed only to be reviewed as information that's filled out. So when we talk about not having to fill in fields, we're not only not having to fill in fields, we're literally categorizing information like those drop-down fields, the ability to not just have it all as just general text and to be able to select intelligently. This is game-changing. Absolutely. Thanks, Sean. I just wanted to point that out because it blew my mind that literally we were now reversing back to do something we knew didn't work before, and the only reason it didn't work was the human factor. And now you are eliminating the human factor.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone's disappointed to not have to do this anymore. At least that's what we've heard. So let's say you have the call, you're going to get a notification from CustomerIQ, just, hey, I updated all these fields, and that's awesome. That's where we are today. What we talked about earlier is then you need to send a follow-up email, and it needs to happen immediately. We actually integrate with the inbox. So whether you're on Gmail or Outlook, as part of getting set up on CustomerIQ, in just a couple seconds, you come in, you connect either one of those things, and that actually powers everything from then on. So after that call, just a few seconds go by, and I can see, I go to my meeting follow-ups here, and I have the meeting follow-up written, drafted to that person I was talking to. This case is a guy named Kevin, a friend of mine I was talking to, and it's this awesome follow-up email. And there's a lot going on to get to this point that we can go into if we want, but the takeaway is that if I'm on 7 back-to-back calls like Doug is every day, after the call, I get in, there's a draft, I review it, I send, everyone has the information they need. It has takeaways, next steps. It follows all kind of meeting follow-up best practices. And then also CustomerIQ can include any helpful content along with that. So that's at least often the recording of the meeting, which is great. But another kind of big benefit is you can add content from your content library. So complex sellers have product specs and case studies and all kinds of content that they often send along to prospects that they talked about in the conversation. In CustomerIQ, you can just include that right in the email, drafted for you, and get sent off, just saving a ton of time.
So just to follow up on that, something we've done at Wendt Partners, we have a library of 30 different one-page data sheets. We call it the HubSpot Success Series. And I have struggled, I don't know for how long, years, with how to easily utilize them, because the challenge has historically been, yes, they can be in the HubSpot sales documents library and they're great. And I love that tool. But at the end of the day, I need to be able to instantly just, if I mention it. So now what we're doing with CustomerIQ and HubSpot is I mentioned on a call, hey, you know what? This is a perfect application for reviewing our budgeting guide, our integrations guide, and our guide to planning, portal mergers, as an example. Those are 3 of our most popular guides. If I mention them, not only is CustomerIQ recording the information, it will attach them to the email as viewing links. So that's happening automatically just based on what I'm saying in the meeting. I don't have to manually do anything. I don't have to recall a template. It's all just happening.
Yep, exactly. And I think some people, it's one of those things that it sounds small, and then you really think about it, and these little micro transactions of, all right, 5 minutes to search for this, go to Google Drive or even like HubSpot documents and pull down those links. They stack up, and that's what ends up leaving you with an hour of work at the end of the day after you've had back-to-back calls and trying to remember what was said. Couple hours, yeah. So yeah, that's been one of the parts I've been most excited about.
And Sean, walk us through now. I know we've been working on this now, to creating tasks in HubSpot and keeping the process going.
Yeah. Checking
the booking calendar. When's that next meeting? All of that.
Yeah, definitely. So, we talked about the CRM data entry. That's all on the property side. There's a couple other things happening. It also pulls down these really great call summaries. These sync directly into HubSpot at the contact record, and then depending on how you have the CRM set up, syncs all over the place. All of this, again, everything I'm mentioning right now happens automatically. You can create clips, there's highlights, and then to Doug's point, it also pulls out tasks. And this is something that's funny. There are other tools, obviously, that do summaries and pull out tasks. But there's a lot of nuance in like what makes a good task, and we spend a lot of time and continue to work with folks like Doug on how to improve this. But these will sync into HubSpot as well. They include kind of the date that needs to happen and all that. So this is true of all of those back-to-back calls as well.
Yeah, nobody wants to have yet another cobweb task in the mountain of tasks sitting in the back end of things that could be done, but maybe should be done or shouldn't be done, right?
Right.
The fact that this is so deeply integrated is a big deal. I mean, a lot of the things too, from what you're doing, and I guess I'm getting product feedback as a nerd, is the timeline events and being able to trigger other things off of the timeline events that you're sending. So you don't have to do like necessarily a custom event per se, but just even updating the timeline and being able to pull a workflow off that alerts, hey, your tasks are set, here's a link to them. All that stuff is super possible with your integration because it's so deep. So I think it's pretty cool. Well, I know it's cool.
I love that you said that. It's one of the things I honestly don't point out enough, is because we're updating properties, people build workflows off of these properties. And that's where everything just gets like, there's this explosion of capability. And I'm excited to hear more about the CPQ, because like we have clients that will trigger, sales quotes based on a field gets updated. It's like, do we need a sales quote? True. CustomerIQ updates it. It runs a workflow to run. So it's just, you start to think about when you go that next level deeper than call summaries, all the things you can do. It's a lot of fun.
It's extending the platform, right? Like that's where Doug and your solutions come in, right? Understanding what the platform can do, and all these extensions are, again, extending the viability, extending the functionality, the power of the platform. When you combine what you're doing with what the platform can do, it's a win-win, and it just requires that expertise in understanding what HubSpot can do. And as product people, when we build apps, is it blurs the line of who's doing what, right? What app is doing what? Is this you? Is this HubSpot? And in your documentation and your training, as you adopt to your product, there is a lot of HubSpot knowledge that kind of comes as this gray area as well. We're like, oh, well, I'm teaching you more about HubSpot as well, because you need to know how HubSpot works, because we integrate into this piece of HubSpot.
Dax, my brain just went.
Carry the team.
Yes.
We do this all day.
I know, it's awesome. I love you guys. The beautiful thing here that you've keyed into is, and I'll say this from a buyer's perspective, if you are considering whether it's an AI tool, a CPQ tool, or any other kind of product to place into your HubSpot platform environment, honestly, the most important thing at the end of the day, other than the basic functionality, is how committed that provider of that product is to becoming HubSpot experts and HubSpot focused. Because what we see all the time is, and I'm talking about some really powerful products, some great products, but they did an afterthought integration with HubSpot. They're like, we integrate, but all of their energy and focus is on their product. And the problem with that is you're not looking to that solution to be their product. You're looking to their solution to help you fill a need inside HubSpot, okay? And so, Sean, you've literally solved that problem. Essentially, 98% of going into CustomerIQ is admin updates, enhancements, right? Controlling and managing. The system is operating in the background, and it's doing it in a way that is leagues above other AI solutions that are out there, because it's operating in a HubSpot-centric manner. You guys have thought carefully about how to engineer this to maximize the impact and the relationship between CustomerIQ and HubSpot in a way that the user doesn't even have to worry about. Dax, you've taken, and I'm going to make a little bit of a transition here, because you both come at this to try to solve what I think is the right problem, which is the HubSpot customer needs to do things that core HubSpot isn't capable of doing today. But I want them doing it in a way that does not add burden to them as a HubSpot user. Okay, that is what 85% of other companies don't think about. They're like, we built this perfect thing. It connects to HubSpot. What is the problem? And I'm like, the problem is you're asking people to operate in 2, 3, 4 different tools that think differently and operate differently. Dax, in the CPQ space, I mean, we're partners with a number of products in this space, and they're all great and powerful technologies, but you've taken a different approach, and it's led us to really zero in on how can we partner deeper and work with clients to support more implementations of QuoteHappily. Why did you guys take a different approach, and what does that mean?
So when you think about the app ecosystem in HubSpot, there's always been 2 lanes. And I found this out the hard way, or the bang your head on wood is like, why is this in the app store, right? From day one, back in 2019, when we first started making, true apps, we were like, okay, well, I see Hotmail and Microsoft Office. That's not an app. That seems like it's an integration where my stuff lives over here and it integrates with HubSpot. Versus I have an app where I'm in HubSpot and I do something different. I'm inside of HubSpot. It gives me some more magic to use. That delineation is pretty much the foundation of how we've tried to build everything that we do. As native as possible, you may need to go somewhere else to administrate, right? Or build your admin settings is what I'm trying to say, just because of the limitations currently of HubSpot, which they will address, of course. But your control panel might be elsewhere, but your end user, your rep, the person that's doing the day-to-day inside of HubSpot, it doesn't look like it's doing anything different. It looks like the exact same process, maybe a cleaner look, maybe some more functionality, but it is inside of HubSpot. I don't have to learn another system. When you're speaking in the CPQ space, which is the rabbit hole of spaces, because what is CPQ in the first place? Everybody and their mom calls their stuff CPQ. Is it? Right. Is it not? You don't know, right? What is it? I never even get the abbreviation correct. It's like cash, customized price. Right. Cash,
is something, right? Quote, is it right? Platform to revenue. What is it this week?
It's people quoting stuff, right? We separate this into 2 real easy things. One is quoting. sell the right stuff to the right people at the right time for the right price. Then there's billing, where when that order is created and signed, does it provision a subscription? Does it send it to somewhere else? Does it send it down to the production facility to get going? But that's and that's the billing, to me, the billing piece, how you're collecting based upon what was signed. We're focusing on the quoting piece. And QuoteHappily is built to be a native solution for people that need more than just, I have prices, I have a product, and I got to send it to people. And they don't need, I need a deal room, I need crazy redlining, I need some contracting that goes 9, 10, 20 different people at red lines and back, but you just have complex pricing, you know, your self-harming Excel spreadsheet with a bunch of formulas that you don't need, but you somehow, somebody made, they don't work anymore, and they just can't, don't touch this Excel spreadsheet, garbage in, garbage out. And then you also have people that have larger sales teams that at the end of the month, you see, you get all these deals on the table and you're like, who sold this? Like, this isn't even, we can't do this. They discounted over 100%. Like, they accidentally fat fingered the discount. So now we owe somebody money contractually. Who did this? Why wasn't this approved? We don't have approvals turned on in HubSpot, because then every single deal is going to have to get approved, or a mountain of deals that shouldn't need to come to my desk are going to come to my desk. Now I'm spending more time. Now it's waiting on me. Sales cycle gets longer. Time kills all deals. All these challenges, right? They can be solved within one place, and that's where QuoteHappily comes into play. So I'll do a quick kind of light demo of the concepts here. I'll share my entire screen. So fundamentally, with QuoteHappily, this is our admin screen where your sales admin, your RevOps admin is going to be building all of the guidance and guardrails that are going to keep your sales rep on track, keep your approvals in line, and all of the fun magic. Baseline is a rule. Everything is based upon a rule. If you've ever built anything, if this, then this, you can create your rules. I'm going to stick with this video game thing, and we've created a rule here that is adding the warranty. So when you think about rules, it's anything associated to the deal. So custom objects, who is the person, the time of day, the team, the quote line items, the discounts, anything can be used to create a rule. If you've ever built like a if this, then that, or built a workflow in HubSpot, you kind of get rules. You get your groups, you get your all conditions, any conditions, but let's break it down. This one is if the line item name contains NES, and there's a line item that's called the NES warranty is absent, we're going to do an outcome, and that outcome is to block them and saying, don't forget the warranty. Common use case for people that need to include something and it ends up hitting the deal desks or wherever, and they're like, they forgot this, send it back. This blocks the rep from even being able to publish that quote. We're going to look at other outcomes. There's tons of them. Almost anything that's on the quote can be automated, right? You know that HubSpot quoting, there's a lot of buttons to click. You got to pick the template. You got to put the terms. You got to do all this stuff, right? It can all be automated. So notifying the rep, hey, you're not going to get commission on this deal because you discounted over 20%. Setting the price book, which we'll talk about. Setting quote template. So if you have multiple quote templates and multiple different languages or designs based upon the industry, can be automated based upon rules. The quote language itself can be automated. So if it's in English, it's in French, it's in Mandarin, it's Tagalog, it's everything can be automated. Adding discounts, fees, taxes, you guys get it. But I do have to point out one of my favorite outcomes, which is updating line items. So based upon a rule, you can then drill down and find a type of line item and update a property on that line item. This is a great example of, hey, if I've ordered the platinum warranty, well, that means all of my products need to be platinum. So you could just instantly make that so the rep doesn't have to remember to set those line items as platinum. If you want to have explicit discounts, we'll talk about price books where you're able to say this company that's an enterprise company in Germany over 10,000 employees gets 10% off, but that'll change the price of the product. What if you want to explicitly state that it is getting a 10% discount? You can modify that discount percentage on the particular line items where it's applicable. Goes really wild, a lot of powerful tools to extend this functionality, but that's rules and outcomes, which are the fundamental of how we set everything. Some things that are super important to understand with this advanced B2B pricing is, like I said, price books. Doug, you get it. If you've done manufacturing, you've done construction, how many products are in their product library? It's not two.
No, it's 10,000 or
It's
more.
10,000, 30,000, 50,000 different SKUs. So your sales reps are constantly going through folders, trying to find the particular product that they need. But when you have price books, like the Cool Kids price book, then when the rep goes to create a quote, they're only going to see the products that are relevant for that specific deal scenario. So as granular as you want to get, you can create price books to make sure there is guardrails on what is able to be sold. Not only that, you can override those prices. So no hacky workaround like having multiple different SKUs for different prices for different customers. This can not only update it over a % increase or decrease by currency, you can also drill down into specific items like the blue light special and say, I want to make this have volume pricing. Again, shout out to the manufacturers out there selling screws. Notice the number of decimal points, Doug, that we were working with there. Also having to set the amount specifically for a given product by currency, by type. So you have all the flexibility so your reps aren't selling the wrong thing to the wrong people for the wrong price.
Hey, shout out, by the way, for the Kmart historical reference on the blue light. Sean's like, I don't even know what to make of you guys. You're busy riffing on blue lights. Okay, thank you, Dax. And yes, and you hit on something really important, which is it's the little details that have a huge impact. We have clients who, they're selling, multiples that are into the thousands place on the price book. So thank you for thinking of those things, because this is a tool that we can hand to an industrial or technical company, and they don't have to rethink it because it was built with them in mind.
100%. And this is just the pain that we see every day of, hey, what about the decimal places? We don't want it to be rounded. Of course you don't. Hey, what about, there's a bunch of different things, right? Let's jump on that, thinking about the HubSpot user and the HubSpot use case, because we come from the HubSpot family. When you have approvals, which our approvals are all based upon HubSpot workflows, so they can be as flexible and as crazy as you need. We've had people that need 16 people to approve only when the deal is in a foreign language. Okay, sure, you can do it. You have the tools to build that because of our workflow actions. So you can build approvals based upon a rule with the outcome of approval. But Doug, Sean, what happens when that person's out of town? Oh, you can set a backup approver, and you can set the time and date for their out of office so that you can have them backed up. Again, listening to your customers is one of the most important things that you could ever say, because as soon as we launched out the approvals, the first person's like, hey, they're out of town and everything is stuck in their approval. We can't get anything approved. We're like, oh man, you're right. We should have a backup. Things like that, right? So on top of that, we're jumping into calculated pricing. Again, a big deal with your manufacturer selling services, goods, just like a HubSpot formula, where you can test it, build it. Again, looks like HubSpot, smells like HubSpot. You're able to use any property associated with a given deal to create a calculation to output the unit price. Very big, very common concept of software companies that need to sell. My onboarding is 20% of all the software that I've sold. So you have to do a roll-up, which is a roll-up of all the line items to see all the software products, which could then be used inside of a calculation. And then boom, you got your rep just adds onboarding. They don't have to pull out the calculator or Excel to see what that price is going to be. It's already set. And the final
thinking about using this for data migrations.
Oh yeah, you'll be able to have all the different pricing set up for each product or products, because you can assign a given calculation to multiple products if need be, based upon their unit price. For example, the walnut shingles are $5 per unit, and I need to calculate the length times the width times the whatever to get the square footage times 5 is going to be my price. I'll apply that same formula to the wood shingles, the plastic shingles, the cheap Goodwill shingles. All of those are going to be set with that proper calculation again. So the rep doesn't have to do anything. They just add the shingles. It's going to calculate it by itself. So the last piece that I'll talk about, which is kind of the big product configuration, is our bundles. I'll show this as an example for how sales reps are going to use QuoteHappily within the CRM. So just like you've bought a computer online, or you've bought, or signed up for, bought a pizza is easier, right? You bought a pizza online, you bought a computer online, you're going to have your included products. I've got my 14-inch MacBook Pro. I can pick my option, which is a display. I can pick the standard display or the nano texture display, and that nano texture is going to add $150 to that particular bundle. You have your default, you've got your guardrails of saying you can only add X amount. And again, now you're building out a lot of stuff in the mining industry, construction industry, even in the software industry, where you have a pricing table that the rep needs to work through and add these different options. They're not going to add the wrong stuff because you've set exactly what memory can be used. They can't sell 16 gigabytes of unified memory because it's not going to be in the price book. So they can't sell it a la carte. You also have your optional add-ons like your pre-installed software where I can bring in Final Cut or Logic and add those up as well. Bringing it into the sales rep experience. I've got this Nintendo deal. If you guys have ever played that thing, I can create a quick quote. And again, notice this looks like HubSpot because it's
I was just going to say that, Dax. I want to clarify for everybody here. We're in HubSpot. We're doing this in HubSpot. Go ahead, Dax.
So we use our CRM card that will pop up in our quote builder, which is a one-page rapid quote builder. No stairway to heaven with 9 different steps. We brought it all into one place. So I've already gotten an approval required message. I'm going to try to add that bundle, which is going to be my, let's see, we can add my Nintendo in here. So how are we going to sell this? So we're going to get our optimizing. So we're making sure, again, looking at all the rules, running everything, and making sure that this is an actual eligible quote. And guess what happened? Already, don't forget the warranty. Again, making people not have to think, I got to add the warranty because I've got the NES in here. But let me configure this NES. Well, it comes with the base system and the standard controllers, of course, but I could swap out and get the black on black edition for $100 more. I can swap out the standard controllers to get the NES Advantage controllers as well for $50 more. And then I have my add-ons that I can add on as well that are completely optional. But as you can see, I cannot even submit this because I haven't added the warranty. So when I do add that warranty, they're like, oh, well, you're right. I got to add the warranty. Let me just add that in here right here. Cool. Now once that's added, no more block. I can actually submit this for approval. Everything is completely native. We're using native products, native lines, native quotes, native everything, and allowing you to have a better sales experience inside of HubSpot without having to learn a new tool, because I'm just adding lines to a quote and the magic happens behind the scenes. And guys, this is where we really want to draw a line between, are we just loosely integrated into HubSpot, or are we a true application bringing more power, more functionality to the platform itself, so that when HubSpot grows, we grow, everyone grows, and no one has to say no, which was the entire point of everything. Nobody grows when you got to say no. No, HubSpot can't do optional items, which is coming out soon. No, Doug, actually, by the way, that was something that you had brought up as well. I want to have a quote, and I want my client to pick 1, 2, or 3 options. That's on its way. That's a huge unlock for a lot of people, and it's another step closer to self-serve, embedding the quote builder on your website, and now they can build quotes hand in hand.
I was going to ask, but I thought I don't want to push too hard.
No, you're not pushing too hard. We're thinking about it and we're doing it right now. So that's a big deal that we're adding. And all these functionalities, again, it's just HubSpot. You don't have to teach your sales reps how to build a quote now. You don't have to go to any of these other partners that you're partnered with and be like, well, here's how you do it over here. Here's how you sync your products and keep your product library up over here. Okay, then you got to learn that, and you got to manage
over
that.
Here, they're called such and such.
No,
just keep in mind that, they're
inside of HubSpot and make a
over
quote
here and quotes over there. Sorry,
right.
Dax.
No, you get it. How do you make a quote? You click create quote. It's the same way. It looks better, it looks different, but it looks like HubSpot. And that's our entire motive of everything that we're doing, especially in the CPQ space, because it can get too complex. And we let that complexity live where it needs to live. Not in an Excel spreadsheet, but it needs to live inside your HubSpot ecosystem in your environment. And that is my time.
So I got a question for you, Dax, because you alluded to at the beginning. There are 2 swim lanes here. Products that integrate with HubSpot versus applications built to extend the functionality of HubSpot. Why on earth has that distinction never been made by HubSpot?
They're too close to the forest to see the trees, man. It's when it first started off, right? The ability to even create something native, right? Like in our lifetime, right? The CRM card concept is new.
It is new.
Apps, and I can put something in there, right? And that's still our lonely place where we can only operate from. Is just the CRM card. UI extensions are a huge benefit, a huge jump to that, but there was no real possible way to build anything native because it wasn't there. So an app store, which you would imagine you would have, is just full of integrations such as Gmail, right? Such as, I wouldn't say Zoom, but like some of these other kind of core things that when you go to the app store, it's the top ones that have been there since the first day one. Like Outlook, Gmail, those are integrations, right? Because I still operate, I would say they're teetering the line, right? But it's not net new HubSpot functionality per se. It is leveraging another service, another software and bringing that data into, right? We also always just say jam it on the contact. That's what most integrations do. It's just jam stuff on the contact.
Yes.
You're like, well, that doesn't do anything for my team. That doesn't take any steps away. I still have to do stuff. But that delineation is, I would say, almost Old Testament concrete. Like, you're not going to be able to just say, hey, yeah, we're going to have another line, because there's already a line, right, where you talk about the theme marketplace versus the app marketplace.
App marketplace.
But what happens, since we were the first people to actually have an app that was a custom object that installed a theme, which was, shout out to Real City, that was the first app to do all of them. I was like, well, where does my theme come in? Oh, we don't have a way for you to install a theme with an app. They're managed two different ways. It's like, well, what are you talking about? I have all the things all in one. How does that work? It doesn't work. Another one, quote templates, right? With QuoteHappily, we have a lot of different quote template modules.
Yes.
And we are not able, HubSpot's not ready for a quote template theme, which is still operated as a theme where you create a template of a template, which is kind of funny, but you do.
Yes.
You cannot have a quote theme in the theme marketplace. They are built completely different. They're managed completely separate, but they're still a theme. But again, we're bleeding edge over here. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? Wait, because I'm the only one. And that's how early it is in this HubSpot ecosystem. We're all real early. We're all still infancy. We're all just like building all the stuff because it's not possible, but we're always hitting this wall of how fast can you innovate? And HubSpot's innovating obviously fast.
Super fast. Yeah.
But there's always us that are in the trenches that see those pains. We get the pebble in our shoe at the end of the marathon. We're like, why does this have to have this way? Why can't I build this? Why can't I do that? And you know what? You just have to do it, just like you did, Sean. Like, well, I'm just gonna have to do it myself. Do it the right way. I just have to do it myself.
It's a gift and a curse.
Yeah, we're gifting the curse. We're Oregon Trail. Like, somebody's gotta cross the river, man. So that's us.
What I love about what the two of you have shared today is it really goes back to the two things that are at loggerheads, which is I sell in a complex world, but I need to simplify my life as a salesperson, right? How do I do more complexity and at the same time do more simplification? And the way most companies solve that is they only take one. They either add complexity, and so now I've got 2 or 3 other applications I have to learn from scratch and hope that the information moves in the way I'm envisioning, right? Or I end up with something that's too simple, right? Which is the way a lot of HubSpot competitors have taken their approach, which is, we're going to give you simple, but there's not any power under the hood. So you end up constantly, and I have this conversation all the time, the two competitor in the industrial market, which is about half of our business. Our clients pretty much divide into 2 groups in that market. One is we are either on Dynamics or we're on Salesforce or we're on our ERP vendor's CRM module, and we're considering moving from what they perceive as overly complex, to HubSpot, but they hope they don't lose the complexity that they need. But then I have the other half who don't have a CRM or haven't really standardized, and they're considering HubSpot versus Zoho and Pipedrive, 2 products that are nowhere near the power of HubSpot. It's not even in the same league. And I think this is significant because what it shows is people are trying to solve for these 2 things. Because the sales manager says to me, I don't want my guys, my team, to have to do more clicks. I can barely get them to do, to put a BCC in an email. Something that HubSpot just solved last week, by the way. Okay. Like, I don't want them to have to do any more stuff. For God's sakes, they already have too much stuff to do. And then the other side, operations, right? Or revenue operations, or typically in the industrial companies, it's not RevOps, it's just ops, right? They're saying, I need proposals that are precise enough to be converted into an ERP order. I need data that is fully built out. I need fewer errors, fewer contract mistakes. How to do these 2 things? How do I do simple and complex at the same time? If we're going to do it beyond just the core capabilities of HubSpot, there's only 2 ways that I've figured out. One is to build functionality onto and in HubSpot itself. And Dax, you guys are the people who figured out that was possible and how to do it. And I can count on one hand the number of people who are doing it that way, which is both interesting and terrifying, but awesome for you and awesome for our partnership. And then Sean, on the other side of the equation is the people who are saying, you know, who are in that AI first space saying, I don't want to have to do any more. The problem with those products, and here's your competitive advantage, I know we've talked about this, is they are ignoring the ecosystem that the customer is living in. They're just solving the problem. I've tried 5 other email follow-up products, okay, that are general AI solutions. The quality, the configuration, and the ability to update my CRM is either not there or it's all over the map and it's not reliable because they're not focused on solving for my customer, who is the HubSpot customer who needs highly complex and yet more simplified at the same time. So I just want to reiterate for the audience that virtually everything you saw here, except for literally a couple of clicks Dax made, are all back-end work. Like literally everything we're talking about here doesn't require new clicks. In Dax's case, it just requires me to click on the CRM card and then build the quote actually with fewer clicks than the standard approach in HubSpot. And Sean, in your case, I'm getting more functionality and I'm literally doing less work. That's the only way we're going to solve for our customer. That's the only way we're going to solve for our customer.
That's
Where do you guys? Yeah, go ahead, Dax.
You want to simplify the process, but you need more, right? It's just, you know, first thing you want, I want more, I want more. When you are able to look at the process, because we know just a vanilla HubSpot experience is going to have clicks. And Sean, you probably know this way more than I, especially in the AI and CRM spaces. People are like, well, it's 2025. Why am I picking drop downs when I create a record? Why am I after a call? Back when I worked at a place that was like a Salesforce, they were Salesforce. They were inside sales, like 60 sales reps or 30 sales reps, 60 BDRs and biz devs. And it was always after the call. Did you disposition the call? You got to disposition the call. What was the call outcome? Did you take notes? That was the stick, right? It was the carrot versus the stick. That was the stick. Like, you're not going to get anything done if you don't click these buttons. And now there's I would say a no CRM movement where it's like, well, I should just talk to the person, solve their challenges, build the relationship, hang up the phone, and it's recorded somewhere. And that's what you're accomplishing. It's recorded somewhere and there's a draft email. I'm a big proponent of the auto draft. Like, my favorite thing to do and build is there's a draft ready. Like, just make me not have to think a little bit. Just have the draft kind of there. I just want to, it sounds just too, you know, it doesn't even matter. It's started. It's not a mental mind change, a shift in how I need to go from call to admin and the brain having to do all that switch. And then somebody pings you on Slack. Then that somebody huddles you on Slack. You're like, it's over. It's gone. All that mental stuff that you've done is gone. And if you could at least optimize me, give me 10%, give me 20% savings on my brain capacity. That is what I believe AI is for. And your product is clearly going to get a demo from me so that I can just test it out. Because if I can save that, it's not going to replace me, right? But if I can save 30% all day, that's a huge, you take a $150,000 employee, you're saving 30%, you can do the math. It's very easy. You're putting almost 45, 50 grand worth of value back into the bottom line, or you can extend that, just be better, right? So I really like that concept because it allows you, again, Doug, you nailed it. I want to do more and I want to do less at the same time. So
that's right.
Let me see solutions that let me do more and do less.
At the same time.
That's right.
I want to share with our audience, if we've got a few minutes left, that we have time for some questions. If you'd like to ask a question, just type it in the message pane and we'll make sure to address it. By the way, I've got a question. I've got a question for each of you. Dax, you first. Tell us a little bit about the other products in the Happily suite and kind of where you guys are heading as a company. What's the vision?
Our biggest one, we're really focusing and doubling down on events and quoting. So event management inside of HubSpot, there's so many limitations, but the idea is like, why do I need to go to another platform? When I do events as my go-to-market, I'm always going to trade shows. I'm doing all these things, right? The funnel ends at HubSpot. So do I need to have other tools pulling that in and updating the contact and then overriding the contact? What we built with Wendt Happily is full event management, whether you're attending trade shows and going around the horn, or you're having a bunch of events that you have yourself, whether it be in person or virtual. So having all the things that you would imagine, having your QR code check-in, you're leveraging HubSpot's automated emails for surveys, for building your automated landing pages, group registration. So adding on the functionality of being able to register me and a bunch of contacts. And in one form submission, having multiple contacts, registering multiple people, picking one or many sessions, or just having a kind of an agenda in my pocket that I can just register for a few different things while I'm at the event, and my own unique page that's sent in my unique email. So really managing events inside of HubSpot is where we're at. And obviously with QuoteHappily, we're just really doubling, tripling, quadrupling down in the CPQ experience, hopefully moving into mobile quoting, moving into, again, the optional items and that two-way street of being able to automatically quote or have people self-serve, create quotes, falling back into the platform itself, and maybe even venturing off into being able to set up your billing or provisioning subscriptions based upon those line items. But right now, events and quoting are where we're really trying to just nail it so that it is an all-encompassing solution, and having the tools and the puzzle pieces needed for your complex, nuanced business, which everybody does. And just to ditch the spreadsheet, I mean, I say this all the time, Doug, to everybody. All we want to do, if you're in software, is just beat Excel. That's it. Like, you're not beating competition. No, it's not. It's Excel. You got to whoop Excel. And if you can't whoop Excel, then your competitors you guys are all kind of wading in the muck with this huge amount of people that are like, well, we have this spreadsheet that we use. Let me just send you my pricing calculator, V4.7.6 final last one dot XLS, right? That any software that you do, same thing, Sean. Like, if you have I followed your enemy is pretty much like this, and copy paste.
Copy paste, exactly.
It's this copy paste or transcribing. That's what your enemy is the paper. This low tech, these low-fi solutions are the 90%. I feel like 10% of people are using, like, I'm using this, I'm using that, like this tech, we do this, we got this AI. Like, in our vacuum of people, AI is just so loud and so hype. Take away our LinkedIn vacuum, people are like, no, I don't. GPT, like, I remember hearing about it. I can't catch up. It's been this, it's 4.0, it's mini, it's 3 small, like the embedding modules, the vector store. What? No one knows what this stuff is.
No.
Right? So we're just trying to take it back to the basics and get the solutions, right? Not overly understanding our vision and what we're up against, right? Who is the villain? The villain is Excel and some piece of paper. That's kind of what we're doing and where we're guiding.
Thank you, Dax. Sean, he set you up beautifully. Like, you know, my God, the AI noise is overwhelming and a little bit insane. What's the vision of CustomerIQ in the midst of all that? How do you continue to slice through and do something unique that serves real customers?
Yeah, our main focus from a product perspective is going to be more around this email and the tools of today. You know, the gift they've kind of given to us is, okay, you solved the blank canvas problem. We have written something. We're really focused on what is the right thing. So searching from a knowledge base. One of the coolest things we can do is when you work with CustomerIQ and a team, we can actually learn what best performers do and apply that across the team to elevate everyone. If you think about just like how a sales process is managed, information you add to it, how you're helpful with a prospect or client, we can actually impact a lot of that across the inbox, across an entire team. So you see a lot more of that from us. And then just more of just like the critical pain points, like follow-ups. Follow-ups are just a huge part of the job, and AI is really good at remembering. So you'll see a lot of cool infinite memory from us there too.
Awesome. Sean, thank you. Dax, thank you. I want to summarize by saying we've literally brought two of the most cutting-edge visionaries in the HubSpot ecosystem together here. Thank you both for your time. This has been amazing. I've learned a lot, and I use these products every day, and we implement them, and we're excited to implement them for you who joined us today. Please keep an eye out for other Wendt Partners programs. I'm actually giving a workshop on AI and sales strategy in May with the Global Chamber. And we're also doing a workshop on picking the right CRM for your company in the technology space in partnership with the Kaufman Southern Tier Incubator. So my thanks again, Sean, Dax, you guys are awesome. Your products are awesome. Your teams are awesome. And most importantly, your focus on the customer is unparalleled. Thank you both for joining us today, and thank all of you. And we'll see you at the next Wendt Partners web event. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Doug.
Bye-bye now.